How do you spend over $500 million and end up with the worst team in basketball? The Philadelphia 76ers managed to do exactly that. A franchise that once stood on the doorstep of a championship now finds itself trapped in one of the most expensive disasters in NBA history. Joel Embiid, the reigning MVP, the face of the franchise, has had his career thrown into doubt by devastating knee injuries. Paul George, the $212 million savior, spent more time in the training room than on the court. And inside the locker room, chaos, leaks, and confrontations that ripped the team apart. But here's the kicker. Through all of this dysfunction, the Sixers still might have a future. And it doesn't come from Embiid or George. It comes from the kids. So stick with me, because by the end of this story, you'll see how a team that once looked like a championship lock turned into the NBA's most expensive cautionary tale. It was the summer of 2024, and Philadelphia fans were euphoric. After years of heartbreak, Ben Simmons refusing to shoot, James Harden demanding his way out, early playoff exits, the Sixers finally had their redemption arc. When Paul George agreed to a 4-year, $212 million max deal with the Sixers, it felt like the missing piece. The big three was complete. Joel Embiid, the reigning MVP, Tyrese Maxey, fresh off his most improved player season, and now Paul George, a 9-time All-Star and the most coveted free agent on the market. Daryl Morey, never shy about taking risks, told reporters, "Paul is an elite wing on both ends of the floor who fits perfectly with Joel and Tyrese." On paper, it looked unstoppable. Elite perimeter defense, shot creation, Embiid's dominance in the paint. Philly wasn't just good, they were championship favorites. But this is Philadelphia. Nothing comes easy. And this dream didn't even make it out of the preseason. October 14th, 2024. A meaningless preseason game against the Atlanta Hawks. Paul George's knee buckled on a routine defensive play. The diagnosis: hyperextended left knee with a bone bruise. Harmless enough, except it wasn't. What no one knew at the time was that this was the start of an injury nightmare. George missed the first 5 games of the season. When he finally debuted in early November against the Suns, he dropped just 15 points on 14% shooting from 3. Not ideal, but fine. Players need time to adjust. 16 days later, disaster struck again. George hyperextended the same knee, twice in less than 3 weeks. From there, the injuries piled up. A finger injury in January forced him to play with a splint. A nagging groin problem required injections. By March, the Sixers shut him down entirely after more procedures on both his knee and adductor. Final damage: just 41 games played. His scoring average, 16.2 points per game, was his lowest since his rookie year in 2011. For those 41 games, Philadelphia paid him $49.2 million. That's $1.2 million per game of inconsistent production. And while Sixers fans wanted him to focus on basketball, George couldn't escape headlines for his podcast. From hot takes about teammates to his abrupt retirement from podcasting mid-season to focus on winning, George's year was as chaotic off the court as it was on it. But here's the thing. As much of a disappointment as George was, his struggles were just the opening act. The real tragedy was Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid has always been one of the most dominant players in basketball and one of the most fragile. Since entering the league, he's missed more than 400 games. That's almost 5 full seasons gone. He has never played more than 68 games in a single year. And at 30 years old, in what should be his prime, his body finally gave out completely. In 2024 to 2025, Embiid appeared in just 19 games. In February 2024, he had surgery to repair a lateral meniscus tear in his left knee. He returned briefly, but the pain never went away. By April 2025, he was back under the knife for another procedure, his second surgery in 14 months on the same knee. Medical experts didn't sugarcoat it. One doctor told reporters, "I'm very guarded, not just with next season, but with his career. He has a challenging problem with his knee." Another compared his situation to Kawhi Leonard and Yao Ming. And we all know how Yao Ming's career ended. For Sixers fans, it was devastating. Their MPV, their franchise cornerstone, might never be the same again. And as bad as it was on the court, the financial side made things even scarier. If you thought the injuries were bad, the contracts turned this story into a horror film. Joel Embiid currently makes $51.4 million per season. That's steep, but fair for an MVP. But in September 2024, the Sixers gave him a 3-year, $193 million extension. By 2029, at age 35 with multiple knee surgeries, Embiid will earn $67.2 million in a single season. Paul George. His $212 million deal runs until 2028, paying him nearly $50 million a year. And then there's Tyrese Maxey. After proving himself as an all-star caliber guard, the Sixers locked him up with a $204 million extension. The result? In 2025, their big three combined for over $135 million, 96% of the salary cap, leaving virtually nothing for depth. By 2027, that number climbs to $152 million. Factor in luxury taxes, and ownership could be paying $75 to $100 million extra per year. All in, Philadelphia has committed more than $600 million to 2 injury-prone players and 1 rising star. This wasn't just risky, it was franchise-crippling. And while the financial burden was brutal, what happened in the locker room completely broke the team. November 2024. The Sixers are 2-11, the season already slipping away. Veteran Kyle Lowry calls a players-only meeting. No coaches, no front office, just the players. And that's when quiet, reserved Tyrese Maxey did the unthinkable. He called out Joel Embiid. "Joel, you're late for everything. Practices, flights, team meetings. It's killing us." According to reports, Maxey wasn't being disrespectful. He loves Embiid, but he was desperate to save the season. The problem? The entire meeting leaked to the media the next day. Every detail, Embiid's tardiness, Maxey's confrontation, plastered across the internet. Embiid was furious, not at Maxey, but at the snitch. He told reporters, "Whoever leaked that is a real piece of, and I know who it was." When asked if the player was still on the team, Embiid smirked. There's a chance they're still around. Speculation went wild. Many suspected Paul George. After all, Philly had never experienced leaks like this in Embiid's tenure, and George, known for oversharing on his podcast, was the obvious candidate. Whether true or not, the damage was done. Trust was shattered. Embiid vowed never to attend another team meeting again, and then things somehow got worse. Criticism is part of being a superstar, but one journalist crossed a line. Marcus Hayes of the Philadelphia Inquirer wrote a column questioning Embiid's commitment, but he didn't stop there. He referenced Embiid's late brother Arthur and his young son, suggesting Joel wasn't living up to his legacy. That was too far. After a November loss to Memphis, Embiid spotted Hayes in the locker room. Witnesses say he lit into the reporter for several minutes. Then, according to Hayes himself, Embiid shoved him in the neck with an open hand and threatened, "You're going to see what I'm going to do to you." The NBA suspended Embiid for 3 games, costing him over $1 million. When asked if he regretted it, Embiid's answer was blunt. "I don't care if the NBA fines me $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million. I'd still do it again. Nobody comes for my family." Say what you want about Embiid, but he stood his ground. For fans, it was both troubling and oddly admirable. But for the Sixers, it was another black eye in a season full of them. By April, the Sixers season was effectively over. The final record, 24-58. That's their worst mark since the process era, the first time they missed the playoffs since Ben Simmons. And this was supposed to be their championship window. Here's the stat that will make Sixers fans sick. Embiid, George, and Maxey played together for just 15 games. Less than 300 minutes total. That's what $135 million bought them. The team used an NBA record 53 different starting lineups. Nick Nurse wasn't coaching a team. He was managing a revolving door of injuries. And the contrast was painful. Just 1 year earlier, with Embiid healthy, the Sixers had a 31-8 record, better than even the eventual champion Celtics. Without him, they fell apart. But in the ashes of this collapse, one silver lining started to emerge. While Embiid and George broke down, Tyrese Maxey broke through. At just 24 years old, he averaged 26.3 points per game, firmly cementing himself as an all-star. More importantly, he showed leadership. That confrontation with Embiid wasn't disrespect. It was maturity. The Sixers rewarded him with a 5-year extension worth $204 million. And unlike their other stars, Maxey actually looks worth every penny. Then came Jared McCain, drafted 16th overall out of Duke. He quickly proved he was a steal. Averaging over 15 points per game as a rookie, McCain had a 9-game stretch where he looked like a future star before a knee injury cut his season short. And finally, their 2025 lottery pick, VJ Edgecombe, a wing in the Paul George mold who dominated Summer League and looks NBA ready, so the Sixers' future might not lie with their supposed Big Three. It might lie with their kids. But here's the brutal truth. No matter how promising the young core looks, the franchise is trapped. The Philadelphia 76ers committed over $600 million to 2 stars who can't stay healthy. Their locker room has been poisoned by leaks and infighting. Their MPV shoved a reporter. Their head coach spends more time answering medical questions than coaching basketball. Meanwhile, around the league, the contrast is humiliating. The Oklahoma City Thunder are building a dynasty around Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the youngest roster in basketball. The Celtics are stacked for years. Even teams like the Spurs and Rockets look like they're trending upward. Philadelphia, their championship window slammed shut before it ever opened. Some around the NBA even whisper that the Sixers are hiding the true extent of Embiid's knee issues. If those Yao Ming comparisons are accurate, the end could be near. So what now? Run it back and hope for miracles? Or tear it down and accept the pain of starting over? It's the question that will haunt this franchise for years. Because one thing is clear, the Sixers' $600 million gamble might go down as the costliest mistake in NBA history.